Inside Victoria Beckham's family fallout, what really happened? What happens when a family that was founded on perfection, fame, and control begins to falter in public? Once upon a time, Victoria Beckham stood for everything refined, strong, and impenetrable, a global icon of fashion, a former Spice Girl who now runs a successful business, 4 children growing up in the public eye, a devoted husband, a close-knit family, and a mother who appeared to have it all together. But behind the designer outfits and carefully staged family photos, something started to shift. A quiet distance, a growing silence, and eventually, a fracture that no one in the Beckham family seems able to fully repair. At the center of it all is a painful breakdown between Victoria Beckham, her eldest son Brooklyn Beckham, and his wife Nicola Peltz. What began as a fairy tale wedding connection between 2 powerful families has now turned into one of Hollywood's most talked about family tensions. And according to insiders, this is Victoria Beckham's most emotional struggle yet. But the real question is, how did love turn into distance inside one of the world's most famous families? The answer, as it turns out, didn't begin with a fight. It began with something far more unexpected: a wedding dress. Chapter 1: The dress that started everything. On the surface, Brooklyn Beckham and Nicola Peltz's wedding in April 2022 looked like a dream. A luxury ceremony in Florida, celebrity guests, global media attention, and a new generation of 2 powerful families coming together. But behind the scenes, tension was already forming. One of the earliest reported cracks came from something surprisingly personal: Nicola's wedding dress. Many expected Victoria Beckham, a respected fashion designer with her own luxury brand, to design her daughter-in-law's gown. It seemed natural, symbolic, even emotional. But Nicola ultimately chose a Valentino dress instead. And while the public explanation suggested timing and logistical issues, insiders claimed the situation was far more complicated emotionally. It wasn't just about fashion. It was about expectations, about roles, about who had control over one of the most important days of Nicola's life. And when expectations clash inside a high-profile family, even the smallest decision can become a silent wound. But no one could have predicted that this moment would be only the beginning, because the real breaking point was still ahead. Chapter 2: The Wedding Night Incident. The wedding day itself was meant to be perfect. Music, celebration, and emotion, everything carefully planned to reflect love and unity. But according to multiple reports, one unexpected moment changed the entire emotional tone of the night. Singer Mark Anthony performed a special song dedicated to the couple. The atmosphere was warm, emotional, intimate. Then something happened that guests still talk about. Mark Anthony invited Victoria Beckham onto the dance floor. And in a moment that seemed innocent to some but deeply painful to others, Victoria was called the most beautiful woman in the room. She danced. She smiled. The crowd watched. But according to reports, Nicola Peltz reportedly left the room in tears. Why? Because what was meant to be her moment, her wedding celebration, suddenly felt, to her, like it had shifted focus. Instead of feeling like the center of the day, she allegedly felt overshadowed. And from that night forward, something changed. It wasn't just a wedding memory anymore. It became the emotional starting point of a growing divide. Chapter 3: Silence after the celebration. After the wedding, things didn't explode publicly. They cooled down. But silence can sometimes be louder than conflict. Over time, Brooklyn Beckham appeared less frequently at family events. Social media interactions between family members reportedly reduced, and public appearances together became rare. One major moment that raised eyebrows came during David Beckham's 50th birthday celebrations in 2025. A milestone event, a global gathering, a family moment meant to be unforgettable. But Brooklyn and Nicola were noticeably absent. Reports suggested internal disagreements, including tensions involving Brooklyn's younger brother Romeo and his partner, contributed to the distance. But whatever the exact reasons, one fact stood out clearly. The absence was no longer accidental. It was becoming a pattern. And patterns in families, often revealed deeper fractures. Chapter 4: The Brotherly Divide. At the heart of the growing tension weren't just Brooklyn and his parents. It was also between siblings. Brooklyn and Romeo Beckham, once close brothers growing up in the global spotlight, reportedly found themselves on opposite sides of emotional disagreements. A key source of tension was Romeo's relationship with Kim Turnbull, which Brooklyn allegedly did not fully support. That disagreement reportedly created uncomfortable boundaries, with Brooklyn avoiding events where Kim was present. What began as personal preference slowly turned into family division, and as Romeo grew closer to other family members, Brooklyn appeared increasingly isolated. Even Cruz Beckham, the youngest sibling, was reportedly spending more time with Romeo. In a family where unity was once carefully presented to the world, the distance between brothers became impossible to ignore. Chapter 5: Victoria Beckham Behind Closed Doors. Victoria Beckham has always been known for control in fashion, in business, and in public image. But this situation is different, because this is not about business, it's about her son. Sources close to the family describe her as deeply affected by the emotional distance, not publicly dramatic but privately struggling. Sleepless nights, constant worry, and the fear that her relationship with Brooklyn may not return to what it once was. One of the most painful symbols for her is the Beckham family tradition: yearly family photos and public appearances that showcase unity. Brooklyn's increasing absence from these traditions reportedly weighs heavily on her. Chapter 6: David Beckham in the middle. While Victoria processes the emotional impact, David Beckham reportedly plays the role of mediator. Known for his calm and composed personality, David is said to be deeply concerned about the long-term impact of the situation. According to insiders, he has attempted private outreach efforts, messages, invitations, and quiet attempts to rebuild communication. But progress has reportedly been slow. Conversations, when they happen, are described as formal and emotionally restrained. And in situations like this, forced conversations rarely heal deep emotional distance. Instead, they highlight it. Chapter 7: A Family Still in Limbo. As of now, the Beckham family appears split into separate emotional spaces. Publicly, they maintain silence. On social media, carefully curated posts suggest normality. But behind that image, the gaps remain visible. For now, the Beckham family remains one of the most watched families in the world. And the world is still waiting to see what happens next. If you want more deep dives like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because the next story might reveal even more shocking truths behind fame and family.